see you. Hi, everybody. Happy Easter. He's risen. It's great to be here with so many wonderful friends on this wonderful Easter Sunday in beautiful British Columbia as we continue this change election. As you know, in a short time, Canadians will decide whether after a lost Liberal decade of rising costs and crime, they can afford a fourth Liberal term, or whether it's time for a change with a new Conservative government that will cap spending, cut taxes, and bring home affordable prices and food for all Canadians. That's the choice. Do we want change? Change so you can afford food and homes, change so that you're safe on your streets, or do you want 4 more years of skyrocketing crime and costs under this Liberal government? And, you know, I've been saying that Mr. Carney is the same as Justin Trudeau. Yesterday, we learned that Mark Carney is far more costly than Justin Trudeau. Mr. Carney released a platform with 120, sorry, I understated it. Mr. Carney released a platform with $130 billion more spending than Justin Trudeau had already planned to introduce. So think this through. Justin Trudeau had planned massive deficits over the next 4 years. Mark Carney has introduced even bigger ones. Combining Trudeau's planned deficits with Carney's new promises, a fourth Liberal government would bring in $250 billion of additional debt. That's inflationary debt that will drive up the cost of food, housing, and everything else you buy. We cannot afford a fourth Liberal term. We need a change in Canada. Change so that you can afford food, homes, and you can live on a safe street. Today, I'm very happy to be joined by Sukh Pander, Avi Nayar, Paul Lambert, Lita Cabal, Rajveer Dillon, Mauro Francis, Tamara Jensen, Carrie Lynn Finley, Sukhman Gill, and we're here today to discuss the change election and our plan to axe the Liberal inflation tax. Now, I invite everyone to get out and cast your vote. As you know, the advanced polls are open today. And it's very important so that we can restore the Canadian promise that anyone from anywhere can achieve anything, that hard work gets you a great life in a safe community under a proud Canadian flag. And that Canadian promise is really personified by Tony Singh, who opened his first store and through hard work and dedication has expanded to 20 locations across British Columbia and Alberta. Yesterday, we learned that what we already knew, and that is that we need to deliver change. Here we are looking at the produce that this wonderful grocer brings to our people. But unfortunately, after this lost Liberal decade of out-of-control inflationary spending, food prices have risen 37% faster in Canada than they did in the United States during the exact same time period. For all that time, Mark Carney was the economic advisor to Justin Trudeau. And it adds up for families. In fact, Canadian families are expected to pay $800 more for groceries this year. Inflation, the silent thief, is always there, lurking around your wallet, robbing you of your money, bit by bit and day by day. It has doubled housing costs over the last decade and priced an entire generation out of food. We've had the worst housing inflation under the Liberals of any country in the G7. It drove up food prices so that 2 million people now need to eat at food banks every single month. Inflation is what happens when governments spend money they don't have. So they just print the cash. More money bidding on a fixed supply of goods equals higher prices for everything. So if you have a fixed supply of, say, onions, let's say there's 10 onions. 10 onions, this is not quite 10. But if you have a fixed supply of onions, here what do we have here? We have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 onions, and $7 in the economy. Well, it's $1 an onion. But if you double the dollars to 14, you only have the same fixed supply of onions. Well, then you will see a doubling of the price. And so that is what happens when governments create more cash than the economy creates things that cash buys. We cannot allow government overspending to drive up the cost of the things that we buy, or else our people will be priced out of the goods they need. In 2020, I asked the government to stop printing money because I knew it would lead to inflation. It was a big concern of mine because I want people to be able to afford food. And at the same time, Mark Carney was asked the same question. He said that he laughed off the concern. He said it's unlikely to materialize to a serious extent. Less than 6 months later, we saw inflation skyrocket. Inflation then went out of control, and Mr. Carney went on to a new message. He said that not only was he not worried about the rising inflation, but that it would be a good scenario. He said that inflation would be good for the economy. It would help progress the economic situation. Well, it did for him. In fact, Brookfield made more profits because of inflation. They could charge more rent and higher prices to customers, and that meant great profits for them. He continues to own shares in Brookfield, which means he profits when inflation goes up. L'inflation est une taxe silencieuse. Elle est toujours présente à rôder autour de votre porte-monnaie, vous volant votre argent petit à petit, jour après jour. Elle a doublé les coûts du logement au cours de la dernière décennie et exclut toute une génération du marché immobilier. Elle fait grimper les prix des denrées alimentaires et entraîné de plus de 2 millions de visites dans les banques alimentaires en un mois, un record historique. La cause de l'inflation n'est pas un mystère. L'inflation suit lorsque les gouvernements veulent dépenser de l'argent qu'ils n'ont pas. Ils se contentent donc d'imprimer plus d'argent, ce qui dévalorise votre argent et votre pouvoir d'achat. En juin 2020, j'ai averti que les dépenses incontrôlées des gouvernements allaient causer plus d'inflation, mais Mark Carney, il a dit « Ah, c'est pas un problème ». Il a recommandé que les gouvernements empruntent davantage. Et il a déclaré, et je cite, « L'inflation ne devrait pas se concrétiser de manière sérieuse. » Au cours des 2 ou 3 prochaines années, l'inflation a explosé. Moins de 6 mois plus tard, l'inflation était hors de contrôle. So he was wrong. But instead of admitting his mistake, he doubled down. Il a dit que l'inflation allait être un bon scénario. Oui, c'était bon pour Brookfield qui a profité de l'inflation, mais c'était terrible pour tous les restes. The London Telegraph has reported that Mark Carney, while he was in charge of the Bank of England, was like, quote, and these are their words, an unreliable boyfriend, printing so much money that the UK would go on to have 11% inflation. And it was the highest in all of the G7. He also is widely blamed for having caused the housing crisis in the UK by printing so much money. Le PDG de Brookfield a dit que leur entreprise profite de l'inflation. Et M. Carney est toujours investi dans cette entreprise, profitant ainsi de l'inflation pour l'avenir. Inflation drove up the value of assets for the super rich while driving down the purchasing power of the people in the communities like this who work so hard to put food on the table. Now, Mr. Carney est en train de promettre un autre 130 000, excusez-moi, M. Carney est en train de promettre un autre 130 milliards de dollars de dépenses inflationnistes au-delà des dépenses déjà prévues par le gouvernement Trudeau. J'ai dit que M. Carney était tout comme Justin, mais en fait, il est encore pire. Il est plus coûteux et il va causer plus d'inflation. Si on ajoute les déficits déjà prévus par Justin Trudeau au déficit que M. Carney veut ajouter, c'est un quart d'1 billion de dollars de dettes inflationnistes que les libéraux ajouteraient si ils sont élus pour un 4e mandat. On ne peut pas payer le prix d'un 4e mandat libéral. That the Liberals are reelected, they will add, by their own numbers, $250 billion in extra inflationary debt, driving up your food, your housing, and everything you buy. We can't afford a fourth Liberal term of inflation. We need a change. Change so you can afford food, change so you can afford homes, change so you're safe on your streets. To pay for all this spending, we will see more debt that will threaten the livelihoods of Canadians. Even a Liberal, the former chief economist at the Public Sector Pension Investment Board, called the Liberal platform a, quote, spendorama with even larger deficits than Freeland's that just go on forever. Canadians cannot afford this fourth Liberal term. We need a change. We need to turn the direction of the country around. We need to stand up for hardworking Canadians and the purchasing power of their dollars. That's why, as Prime Minister, I will axe the inflation tax. We will do this by cutting waste, capping spending, reducing deficits, taxes, and inflation. We will cut bureaucracy, foreign aid, handouts to corporate insiders, special interest groups, and consultants. To be very specific about it, I'm going to address the inflated cost of consultants, which have gone up over 100% during the lost Liberal decade, costing the average family today well over $1,000 in federal taxes just to pay for consultants. Can you imagine that? You're spending over $1,000 in federal taxes just to pay for consultants. This is insane. And that's why I'm announcing today I will cut the federal government's budget for consultants by $10 billion, bringing it back to the level it was under Stephen Harper. $10 billion less for high-priced consultants means $10 billion less inflation, means $10 billion more affordable life for Canadians. Furthermore, instead of creating more cash, we will create more of what cash buys. We will unleash our economy by removing anti-development laws, red tape, and destructive taxes to add $500 billion of extra economic growth over the next 5 years. That will produce $70 billion in additional revenue for the government without higher taxes, but instead using higher growth. These estimates are based, these confirmed calculations are based on the economic validation of the former chief economic analyst of Statistics Canada, Philip Cross, and the former associate deputy minister at Finance Canada, Dr. Tim Sargent. They confirm that rapidly approving massive natural resource projects, getting rid of Bill C-69, the anti-development law, and the tanker ban, setting up shovel-ready zones to approve projects, and unleashing investment by allowing the people to reinvest their capital gains tax-free in Canada will unleash this boom. It will be like economic rocket fuel for our country, producing more of what people need. You see, if you want to fight inflation, if you want to have stronger purchasing power, instead of adding more cash, you need to add more of what cash buys. Build more homes, grow more food, and produce more energy. And that is what we will do. We'll unleash our economic might so that we produce the things that Canadians need to buy. This will also boost the dollar. When we sell more of our goods on the world stage, what happens? You actually boost the dollar, and that increases the purchasing power for everything that we sell to the world and everything that we buy at home. The globally priced commodities like food and energy become more affordable when the dollar goes up. And that is part of our plan, to axe the Liberal inflation tax and make your life affordable. That is the issue in this election. You cannot afford another 4 years of Liberal inflation, of rising food costs and costs for homes. That's not all. We'll cut income tax by 15%, putting almost $2,000 back into your pocket if you are a working family or a couple of retired seniors with a pension, each with a pension. We'll remove the sales tax on new homes and incentivize municipalities to cut their development charges so that you can afford a home that is $100,000 less expensive. We'll axe the entire carbon tax. We will get rid of all of the costly tax increases the Liberals have brought in place. Nous allons, j'ajoutais en français, j'annonce aujourd'hui que les conservateurs vont couper le budget pour les consultants de 10 milliards de dollars en retournant le budget pour les consultants jusqu'au niveau que ça a été dans les années Harper. On va aussi libérer un demi-billion de dollars de croissance économique en permettant nos ressources naturelles d'être bâties, en donnant l'approbation rapide aux grands projets et en incitant la croissance avec les coupes de taxes et d'impôts pour l'investissement ici au Canada. Ça va générer 70 milliards de dollars de revenus supplémentaires d'ici 5 ans. C'est confirmé par l'ancien analyste économique en chef de Statistique Canada et l'ancien fonctionnaire de haut cadre de Finances Canada, le Dr. Tim Sargent. C'est comme ça qu'on va réduire l'inflation. C'est en produisant plus et en réduisant le coût. C'est pas nécessaire de produire, c'est pas nécessaire de produire plus de l'argent, de la monnaie. C'est nécessaire de produire plus de ce que l'argent achète, c'est-à-dire la nourriture, le logement et l'énergie. C'est comme ça qu'on va contrer l'inflation libérale et on va rendre la vie abordable pour tous les Canadiens. C'est ça le choix dans les élections qui s'en viennent. Est-ce qu'on veut un 4e mandat de l'inflation ou est-ce qu'on a besoin d'un vrai changement avec un nouveau gouvernement conservateur qui va couper le gaspillage, plafonner les dépenses, réduire les déficits et les taxes pour que vous puissiez acheter une belle vie pour votre famille? That's the choice in this election, my friends. Do we want another 4 years of costly Liberal inflation? What do you think? No? You ready for a change? You want a change? You want some change back in your pocket? You want to be able to afford this food? Yes, we do. We need a change. 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 Canada needs a change. And Election Day, let's vote for a change. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to turn this around.
We will now take questions from the floor.
There we go. That's better. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right.
James from BC Bay News. Mr. Polyev.
Yes, sir.
About the safety, street safety.
Yes, sir.
Many in the Chinese Canadian community are concerned about rising crime, but they also fear being unfairly targeted or profiled and have criminal policies. How will the government make sure that public safety measures protect everyone equally without creating fear or divisions among immigrant communities? Thank you.
Thank you. That is a very important question. We need to end the fear. After the lost Liberal decade, crime is raging out of control. Violent crime is up 50%. Gun crime up 116%. Drug overdose deaths are up 200% and almost 300% here in British Columbia. The catch and release hug-a-thug policies of Liberals have endangered our communities and threatened our kids. In communities across the Lower Mainland, parents are having to go to soccer pitches and form lineups walking down the field to look for crack pipes and dirty needles. And our families are terrified that their kids are going to step on a dirty needle when they go to a park. This chaos, this Liberal chaos, cannot continue. We need a change. And only Conservatives will deliver that change. Change so you can afford food and homes, but change so that you're safe in your street. And our plan is to lock up criminals with a 3 strikes you're out law, 3 serious offenses, and the offender will not get out of jail for at least 10 years. No bail, parole, probation, or house arrest. It will be jail, not bail. Second, we will repeal the catch and release laws, C-75, C-5, and C-83 that the Liberals and the NDP brought in. Third, we will bring in life sentences for fentanyl trafficking, human trafficking, and gun trafficking. It is in this way that we will bring home the safety that Canadians used to take for granted. Safety for you and your family, safety in all of these wonderful communities. I'll just conclude on one thing. Guns. Gun crime is raging out of control after the lost Liberal decade, up 116%, because Liberals have reduced penalties for gun smugglers and criminals and left our borders open to trafficking of firearms, all the while wasting billions of dollars trying to ban hunting rifles. They have spent millions of dollars without taking a single gun off the street. Enough going after hunters and sport shooters who have licenses. Let's go after the real criminals and secure the border. That's how we're going to bring a change. So the choice in the election is, do you want a fourth Liberal term of crime and chaos, or do you think it's time for a change with Conservatives so you can be safe in your community?
En français.
Merci beaucoup. Après les décennies perdues des libéraux, il y a plus de criminalité dans nos rues. Encore, le taux de criminalité a augmenté de 50% pour les crimes violents. Les crimes faits avec les armes à feu ont augmenté de 116%. Les surdoses ont augmenté de 200%. Les crimes faits avec la violence sont hors de contrôle et les gens ne se sentent plus sécuritaires dans nos rues. C'est les lois libérales qui ont provoqué cette crise de criminalité. Il faut que ça change. On ne peut pas prendre le risque d'un quatrième mandat. Il faut un gouvernement conservateur qui va abroger les lois de libération automatique des criminels. Mettre en place la loi de 3 coups. 3 crimes sérieux et le criminel va être en prison pour au moins 10 ans. On va mettre des peines de vie pour le trafic de fentanyl, d'armes ou le trafic d'êtres humains. Et finalement, on va sécuriser nos frontières pour protéger les Canadiens. Parlant des armes à feu, les libéraux ont provoqué une augmentation de 116% dans les crimes faits avec les armes, parce qu'ils ont réduit les pénalités criminelles pour ceux qui font la crime avec les armes. Ils ont ouvert leurs frontières aux criminels et ils ciblent des chasseurs qui sont déjà enregistrés avec un permis. Moi, je vais faire le contraire. On ne va pas cibler les gens respectueux de la loi. On va mettre des criminels en prison. On va sécuriser nos frontières. Il faut que ça change pour que vous ayez une vie abordable et sécuritaire. C'est ça le choix dans les élections.
Thank you. Next question.
Good morning, Mr. Polyev. Stephanie Levis with the Globe and Mail. Following up on that a bit, will you keep in place or repeal the current national freeze on the sale of handguns?
So first of all, let's be clear. Handguns are, after the lost Liberal decade, are legal today, legal to own, and easier to get than ever before. In fact, criminals are able to get handguns everywhere they go. In fact, we have more handguns in Canada after the lost Liberal decade than we ever have. The problem, according to the police, the problem is illegal guns coming in from the United States of America. So that's why the police believe with my approach in life sentences for handgun and other firearm traffickers. They believe in securing the border against traffickers and in mandatory prison sentences for those who use guns in violent crime. The police have said that the current Liberal policies just prevent off-duty police officers and military veterans from practicing their craft without going after the criminals who caused the crime. So my approach will be to lock up the criminals, secure the borders, and stop the crime for a change. And that's the choice in this election. Do we want a fourth Liberal term of crime and chaos, of growing gun crime, or do we want a change with a new Conservative government that will ban all illegal guns, We'll secure our borders and lock up the criminals. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Question, though.
Next
You're not
question.
answering the question. Are you going to keep in place
Sorry.
the handgun ban or not?
Sorry. Thank you very much.
Sorry. Next question.
Good morning, Sonia West, Sanja TV. It's a tight squeeze. Good morning, Mr. Polyev. Many Canadians, especially newcomers and second-generation immigrants, feel that they did everything right, worked hard, contributed, yet they're priced out of homes, burdened with taxes, and disillusioned with government. If you become Prime Minister, how exactly will you restore that Canadian dream for them and me? And what's your timeline for real results?
Thank you very much. That's the question we hear everywhere. You know, it wasn't long ago that life was affordable in Canada, and that if you worked hard, you could get ahead. That was the Canadian promise. That's what brought immigrants here. We had a very simple deal. You work hard, you get a nice house, you get delicious, nutritious food for an affordable price, and you live in a safe street. But over 10 years of liberal tax spend and inflationary policies, our hardest working people can't eat, heat, or house themselves. We have 2 million people lined up at food banks. We have an entire generation priced out of a home. And now Mark Carney wants to make it worse with $130 billion of new, uncosted spending commitments, above and beyond everything that Justin Trudeau already promised to spend. Mark Carney is even more costly than Justin Trudeau. And you will have out-of-control inflation if the Liberals get a fourth term. We need a change. And the choice in the election is a fourth Liberal term of rising costs and crime, or a change with a new Conservative government that will cut waste, bring down inflation, and lower your taxes so you can afford a great Canadian life. Our plan is to, as I said earlier, we're going to axe the inflation tax by cutting wasteful spending and the deficit. We'll cut your income tax by 15%. So your hard work actually pays off. We'll axe the sales tax on new homes and incentivize municipalities to cut their building taxes to knock $100,000 off the cost of a new home. And we will allow people to reinvest their capital gains tax-free here in Canada so that they build things, grow things, and make things. That is how we're going to restore the Canadian promise. We need change. Change so you can afford housing and food. Change so that you're safe in your streets. Change to bring home the country we love. Thank you very much.
We will now go to the final question.
Bonjour, Monsieur Poilievre. Excusez-moi, je vais me tasser un petit peu. Vous êtes loin, je suis derrière beaucoup de gens, puis je ne vous vois pas. Bonjour.
Mais vous pouvez bouger un peu.
Oui, ben voilà, là, on peut se regarder dans les
voir
yeux.
votre beau visage ce matin.
Merci, vous aussi, vous aussi.
C'est
Il y a un de vos candidats, Monsieur Obermann, dans Mont-Royal,
Oui.
qui dit « Nous définancerons des universités qui n'en font pas assez pour lutter contre l'antisémitisme » et qui dit « Les universités ne recevront pas un sou du gouvernement fédéral tant qu'elles n'auront pas fait le ménage. » Donc, pour vous, faire le ménage, est-ce que ça veut dire expulser des étudiants, renvoyer des professeurs? Et êtes-vous d'accord avec ces propos?
On ne devrait jamais donner notre argent pour subventionner l'antisémitisme. Et je trouve ça aberrant que certaines universités ont gardé en place pour longtemps des professeurs antisémites. Il y a eu une université qui avait un ancien terroriste comme professeur. Il y a des programmes qui font la promotion de la haine contre les Juifs. Les libéraux ont donné une contribution pour le cause d'antiracisme à Leith Marouf, un homme qui a décrit des Juifs avec un langage qui est épouvantable. Donc, je peux vous assurer qu'il ne va pas y avoir un sou de mon gouvernement pour subventionner l'antisémitisme. L'extrémisme qu'on voit dans nos rues, l'harcèlement des Juifs canadiens, les attaques terroristes contre les synagogues, c'est dégoûtant. Et mon message pour la communauté juive, vous allez avoir un allié. Je vais travailler sans relâche pour vous défendre le droit de porter l'étoile de David, le kippa, et le masuza sur les portes. et on ne va jamais se permettre l'argent des contribuables canadiens de subventionner la haine contre les Juifs ou n'importe quel autre groupe ici au Canada. Mon message pour d'autres personnes qui font cette violence. Écoutez, on avait une tradition au Canada avant l'arrivée au pouvoir des libéraux. Oui, on peut avoir des opinions différentes par rapport aux affaires étrangères, mais la violence et la haine contre les autres Canadiens, c'est pas acceptable. Laissez la violence et les conflits à la porte si vous venez au Canada. Ça marche comme ça, c'est ça la vie, c'est ça le Canada. Il faut que ça change. Il faut, après 10 ans des libéraux, 10 ans de chaos, de division, de terrorisme et d'antisémitisme, il faut que ça change et je vous assure que ça va changer avec un nouveau gouvernement conservateur.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes today's press conference.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you. I think in English, I think they wanted the message in English. Thank you very much. Thank you. We're going to axe the inflation tax. Thank you very much. That's good. Thank you. Good to see you guys. Thank you very much.